and welcome to the Monday evening.
Love ball like I do. After Dark, so must listen.
That's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Night 2 here from Charleston. Welcome to another edition of the Field of 68 After Dark presented by BetMGM. I'm Paul Fritschner. That's Jeff Goodman. That is Rob Dauster. And it's not as cold as it was last night. We are warmed up from yet another overtime game, fellas, that we had at TD Arena, which is right behind the cameras here. We have another picturesque night here tonight in Charleston. There's a couple of there's a bridge.
There still is a
back
bridge
there.
back there. We promise you.
The bridge did not go anywhere.
Somewhere over here. There's a bridge.
You know what I do love about this is we get down after the game and we're all sitting here talking, and Paul's got a normal voice, and then we start the show and it's we're back night 2 here in Charleston at TD Arena.
Flip the switch, baby. Flip the switch. We're live from Charleston, and we have a lot to talk about over the next next hour here on the Field of 68 After Dark. And we're going to start with the game that we saw here at TD Arena, another overtime game. So in 2 days here in Charleston, we had a double overtime game yesterday and then an overtime game today. It was a little bit of a different game, kind of had a weird pace to it where there was a ton of points in the first, let's call it 28 minutes of the game, and then things completely grinded to a halt. It still found its way to overtime. Liberty had a chance to tie it, to send it to a double overtime. Shot didn't go, and it was an FAU win, which to me, and I'll start with this thought, we talked last night about what that loss could have done or could have meant to FAU. To lose in double overtime, such an excruciating loss. How do they respond less than 24 hours later on tired legs against a fresh team, a very energized team that comes in with a 3-0 record? Well, we got that answer tonight, and things were looking a little rough for FAU early, but they were able to answer. They always kind of, like I said, they always made that shot or got that stop that they needed, it felt like tonight. And Jeff, we'll start with you. Your impression of how FAU kind of came out of the gates tonight, but then at the end closed and made the winning plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were resilient. You know, they hung around enough, right? They took a punch early from Liberty. Liberty couldn't miss. Mm-hmm. And same thing as last night, right? They hung around long enough, but the difference in this one was they made the plays down the stretch.
Yep.
Right? I mean, obviously, you look at Leland Walker, the plays he kind of made to put him in position at the end. And then Caleb Glenn with some big baskets, making 1 or 2 from the line. And they closed out a game, and honestly, this would have been tough to take. Back-to-back overtime losses, if they had dropped this one, would have been very, very difficult to take.
And then not only that, you have to sit for a few days here in Charleston off of that loss, waiting on the Charleston Classic to start on Thursday.
Just stewing it.
Just waiting for a chance again to get another opportunity to go out there and play, and instead you get a win that gives you a little positive momentum to sit on.
Yeah, I really do think that the start of this game was a result of Liberty having not played yesterday, waiting to get started in this event, and FAU coming off of a game where they played in front of 5,500 people, where it was one of the liveliest environments that I've seen in college basketball in a while, right? Where you play this double overtime thriller where it's back and forth and up and down and aggressive, and you're tired and your legs are gone, and you just played 44 minutes the night before, and now you come out in the dead arena and it's quiet and you're a little tired, and it took them a while to get going. And I give FAU a lot of credit for finding a way to fight through that. But what have we said this entire time? We've been here for 2 days now. What we've said about FAU this entire time is if they are going to be good, if they're going to be able to have a chance to win the American, to be good enough to make a run of the tournament, because I think that the talent is there for them to be able to make a little bit of noise, they got to guard. They have to get stops. They held a good Liberty team that runs really good offense, scoreless for 6 minutes, and without a field goal for 8 minutes in the second half. Now, they couldn't score themselves, but they did enough where they were going to be able to win this game. And I
But
think
they'll
that's
take
what
it.
matters.
The way they won this, my guess is John Jacobs would rather they win it this way, right? Fighting tooth and nail and guarding and showing some fight on that end rather than win another game at, 100 to 94 like they lost, a couple games ago.
In this one, Liberty led by as many as 12. Had a halftime lead. It was 42-39 at the half. But then Liberty only scores 25 points in the second half. And I think one of you guys just said it, made a great point that FAU, they had chances when Liberty wasn't scoring for 8 minutes there in that second half. Couldn't make a field goal. And then at one point, couldn't make a shot at all. Didn't score for 6 minutes. And FAU just couldn't pull away. They couldn't pull away. The game was tied for almost that entire time because Liberty was guarding and making those same stops that they needed back the other way. And it wasn't like they were getting bad shots. There were a lot of wide open shots that just weren't falling.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of two different games in a
Yeah.
way. It really was two different games. I mean, you saw the offense early, and then all of a sudden neither team could score. And I think part of it was much better defense, and part of it was they were just missing the shots that they were making earlier in the game. But, to me, again, if I'm FAU, I'm ecstatic if I'm John Jacobs because I'm going to go out there and I'm going to play pickleball on Monday, and I'm going to feel pretty good about the split. And especially because, again, Charleston's a really good team. We've talked about it already. We're going to see them tomorrow. Obviously, they play Liberty, 4 o'clock on field of 68. But they had a chance to beat Charleston, and they ended up beating a Liberty team that I think will be much better this year than they were a year ago because we saw it with our own eyes tonight, right? They're long. They're athletic. They got two of the best, I said it, passing forwards you are going to see in the entire country on that team.
Yeah, I mean, Liberty's a lot better than I think any of us thought coming into this game, right? I was a little surprised that they were favored coming into tonight. I think that has as much to do with the playing 2 games in 2 nights as anything. They're better than I expected them to be, and a lot of that has to do with what they have on the front court. But just one last note on FAU before we can kind of move on. You said that you think John Jacobs would be ecstatic with this. I don't know if he's necessarily ecstatic getting a split here. I think he probably feels like he has enough to have won both of these games. But I think he's also smart enough to realize that if you are FAU this year, most likely you're not getting an at-large bid, right?
He said it to us tonight. Yeah. He said the only way we're going to get an at-large bid is what? If we win the Charleston Classic.
Yes. More likely than not. And even then, like you're
probably not.
In the
even
American,
then,
there are a
right.
lot of landmines that are going to pop up in that conference. But it's not about just being able to put together the resume to get that at-large victory, right? It's like, all right, how can we build this team to the point where all of this talent is working together to be able to knock off some of these bigger – like they were close against UCF. There were issues on the defensive end of the floor. They were close against Charleston. They didn't make the plays they needed to defensively. They made the plays they needed to tonight against Liberty. We know what they can do offensively. I think for him, it's a little bit of a learning process and a growth process with this group. And I think they're going to get there, man. Like, if you look at them and stack them up player for player against some of the teams that we've seen in the bottom half of the Big East or the bottom half of the ACC, there's not that much.
Talent level isn't that different.
There's not that much of a difference.
I like his 2-point guard deal tonight.
Yeah.
I like the fact that he went with Walker and Moretti together. I think that's honestly, and he kind of said it, like, I want 2-point guards, right?
We think about the team that he when he won the title with Baylor. Think about the roster that they put together. They won it because they had Jared Butler
and when he was at Gonzaga. And he was at Gonzaga, they did it. He learned from Mark Few and Scott Drew, like, you can never have enough quality point guards.
Well, and think exactly what we talked to him about yesterday, where 2 days ago, where we said, what were your priorities coming into this season? What were you looking for when you built this roster?
And number one.
And the number one thing he said was, I want 2-point guards. And if you think back to last night, how important was that Moretti was able to come out and basically save the game? They didn't win, but had they won, he would have been the MVP of that game because of how he ended up playing and saving the game. He maybe would have been the underrated MVP. Caleb Glenn would have eventually.
I was going to say Caleb Glenn takes a little bit of umbrage with the fact that you're saying he won an MVP.
But
he scored 27 points in polls like this guy was nothing.
That's not what I said.
You needed both those guys.
You needed them.
And I'll say this, like, to me, those two can really work together, and we saw that tonight. They're different. They complement each other. Moretti's not a breakdown guy, right? But he's smart. He uses angles. He can find guys. Leland Walker showed tonight he's more of a scorer.
That's what
he's more of a scorer.
Yeah. He can make a play if he needs to.
Yes.
He's out there to get a bucket.
Yep.
Though. Like that's who he is.
So you can play those guys together, especially against a team like Liberty, especially against teams that aren't going to have 6'5", guys on the perimeter.
All right. Any final thoughts on this game here before we move on?
Shout out to both these teams for playing it, man.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
The fact that this event is happening is just awesome. The buy-in from Charleston, the buy-in from FAU, the buy-in from Liberty. These are teams that are at the level where they need to be able to get creative to schedule good quality opponents. And even I know that Liberty took a loss tonight, but you're playing on a neutral in what is probably going to end up being a quad 2, maybe if FAU gets hot, a quad 1 game. And so it's not going to be a loss that hurts them. It's going to help their metrics playing this team tough and playing this team close. So credit to them for being creative and working with us and finding a way to get this game done, man. This was awesome. I had to blast these 2 games, and we still got one more left tomorrow.
But don't give Jake his credit because this was a Dusty May.
Yeah, but
Matt Roberts / Pat Kelsey, a Dusty May. Sure, he could have tried to get out of it. No question about it.
Yes.
And obviously Richie McKay helped spearhead this thing as well. I mean, he's been in our corner in these type of events.
Richie has as many ideas as anybody.
It's awesome. No, it's awesome. I mean, again,
some of them you're like, all right, Richie, let's slow down on this one. And some of them you're like, yeah, you know what?
Yep.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Why not?
Let's
Roll
do
the
it.
ball
Let's
out
do the
there.
Field of 68 tip-off.
I would like next year.
Okay.
Here's what I would propose.
Talking to the mic, Goodman.
We're going. I'm talking to the mic. The mic's right here. I would like to go. We're going to Liberty for the final year. I would like to go to Liberty, and I would like to maybe start another round robin with 3 teams that I can send Dauster to. Somewhere else?
I'm in.
How about
you're coming with me?
Oh,
you're coming
gotcha,
with me to
Gotcha.
Gonzaga,
I
UConn,
got
North Carolina.
Yeah,
Let's go. Gonzaga, UConn, North
I'm
Carolina.
not sure.
Sign us up, Hubert. Sign us up, Mark. Sign us up, Hurley. Let's get this done.
Hurley and calling
Real champions class.
All right. And that leads us into Indiana and South Carolina.
Sure it does.
Indiana 87, South Carolina 71. Jeff, your biggest takeaway from this one for Indiana?
I know. I'm going to tell you exactly what he's
Go
going to
ahead.
say.
What are you going to say?
They made threes.
Yeah, they could shoot. Indiana could shoot. They were, I think, 8 for 17 from 3. Miles Rice made some shots. Cannon Carlisle made some shots. We know Renew can make a 3 here or there. Mbako shooting threes. Like Mike Woodson, you have finally, I think, done it. Now, I want to see it more than a one-off here, but I do think this team collectively is much better than they were a year ago, and they made shots from the line as well. I don't think South Carolina is great, but it's a good win. It's absolutely a good win for this Indiana team because of how they were able to get it. What?
We have 3 cameras up there, and you didn't look in the right camera a single time.
I'm looking at this one.
Our producer, and I wish we had, this is when we needed the producer Cam Dagan, because our producer Dagan Hughes was back there saying, this camera, and Jeff is just sitting there staring into the
light is
camera.
blinding.
I'm glad you pointed it out. It's only my second day on the job, so I was not going to say anything, but I'm glad you said something.
That was pretty funny. On Indiana, look, the talent level is there without question. I made the argument before the season started that this is the most talented team in the Big Ten, right? Yeah. If you were going to give me the choice between 2 rosters, Indiana or Purdue, give me the Indiana roster. I don't think there's a roster, and maybe Illinois has an argument, right? But I think Illinois is a little bit young and they're more built on potential. For this year, I don't think there's a roster I'd rather have than Indiana's roster. Now, the big question is, how does this translate once you get to competition that is a little bit better than South Carolina? It worked tonight. It worked because Miles Rice played like the Miles Rice we all wanted him to be. What happens when you don't get that Miles Rice? I don't think he's going to be a 23-4, 3 assists, 7 for 10 for the floor. He's not going to be that guy.
Here's the difference.
And here's
Trey Galloway coming off the bench now. Trey Galloway was playing 30 minutes a game a year ago. You know who else was playing a lot a year ago? Gabe Cupps. Find him in the box score.
I'm looking.
You
It must be a misprint.
Yes, because you can't.
Must be a typo.
So, yes, the roster, they're deeper. They're really good from like 1 to 8 this year. Listen, Umar Ballo doesn't even need to score.
So that was
for
going
this
to be
Indiana
my
town.
next question.
Right. Doesn't need to.
But that was going to be my next question. All right, Umar Ballo had 2 shots. Now he got to the line 9 times. Okay,
And he rebounds.
13 rebounds, 6 blocks. But is he going to be okay if this season his role is blocking
He'll be
shots
fine.
and getting rebounds?
As long as he's getting his paycheck, his NIL, he'll be fine.
That's probably fair.
Colin Murray Boyles, look at what he did tonight. Nothing. He got in foul trouble early. He was completely ineffective. You know, again, I'm not sure this works against every team the way Indiana's going to play, right? Because they've struggled early against bye teams so far, bye games.
Yeah.
They've struggled.
Here's what I'll say. The game where they really struggled was against Eastern Illinois. It was a Sunday noon tip-off, right, when I'm sure they probably would rather be watching an NFL game than playing a bye game. And it was the morning after the Indiana football team landed a
Who?
The Indiana football team landed a
Oh, the
huge
one
win.
going to the playoff?
I'm going to
That
go.
one?
I'm going to go ahead and guess
that
that
the
this
one?
team with all that NIL money probably maybe spent a little too much time celebrating that football victory. That's at least what it looked like. I'm just speculating.
Took 20
I'm
minutes
just
to
throwing it
warm
out
up.
there.
It's okay. They
Yeah.
came out in the second half.
That's what happened to FAU tonight.
Yeah.
I do think that it also is worth noting that Mike Woodson played quite a bit of 4 out with Mackenzie Mbako at the 4 or Bryson Tucker at the 4, right? We probably got in this game 15 to 18 minutes of Ballo and Renew playing together, and there was a lot of minutes of them alternating. And to me, that's the key, right? I don't think that he has to go full 4 round 1. I think that you can make Ballo and Renew work together against
See what the
specific
matchup
teams.
is.
Yes, against the matchups. But his willingness to play more of Mbako at the 4. Like, at the end of the day, I think Mbako is, if you can convince Mackenzie Mbako to be a big forward, to be like an Alex Caravan, kind of play that role as the 4-man that spaces, he could be an All-American. I think the talent is there for him to be able to do that.
But the question is never offense with Mbako, and it's never going to be offense. It's defense.
And you know what
It's
happens?
defense.
You know what happens if you have him play the 4?
Yeah,
He ain't guarding 6'5" wings.
Right.
He's
I
guarding
know.
dudes like him.
I know.
So-
Like, to me, that's the thing, is you put him at the 3, you're putting him in a position where really he's going to fail defensively. You put him at the 4, he's got a chance.
I don't think I think he's better on that end this year. Last year, you're 100%
Oh, he was
correct.
a mess.
And the first month of last season, it was like watching a time.
I remember I was at that Army game.
It looked like a freshman that had not yet been coached up on how to defend on the perimeter. And it wasn't just like, okay, you have to stay in front of your man and he got beat. Like, he was fine at that part. It was the rotations. It was knowing, all right, when the ball's over here, I have to get here to try to take the charge. Or I have to cut off this pass when the ball gets driven baseline. Or I have to make this rotation here. This is how I X out on the weak side of the floor if there's a ball screen. You know what I mean? Like, it was all the scheme stuff. And he started picking that up towards the end of the year. And I'm not saying that he's, like, great at it yet, but I think that he's made enough improvement where it's not.
Just be average. Just be average.
I would not
defensively.
I would not say that he is a liability on that end. For
And
Indiana
if he's
right now
not,
at the 3.
then they got a chance.
Yeah.
And if they make shots, they really have a chance.
And we can put a ball in it with this. You got a stud at the point guard spot, man. Like, Miles Rice is really, really, really. And we saw it at Washington State last year. He was a lot better at Washington
I
State.
just want to see it more.
Yes.
That's all. And we're not until they go to the Bahamas. That's when we're going to see it, because Indiana's non-conference schedule at home is atrocious. I mean, it's a joke. So really, and South Carolina's probably, let's face it, they're probably not going to do what they did last year again.
No,
They're not a tournament team, most likely. Now, maybe Lamont Paris will prove me wrong again. I'd be shocked. So the Bahamas is going to be very important for Indiana.
I think
to
the biggest,
get a resume win going into conference play.
Just last thing on South Carolina real quick is I think there's some talent on that roster. I think the biggest roadblock for them is going to be they play in an SEC where you could have 11 teams make the tournament. And, like, how are you going to be able to stack up wins when you have that many good teams? And you're like, there's a real chance they could finish 500 this year overall. If I'm a season ticket holder, like, this is not just an Indiana question. This is a big picture, like, college basketball question. What incentive is there for me to buy season-long season tickets? Why would I want to spend all the money on, just for Indiana as an example, all of these bye games that they play? Like, if I'm there's so many bye games. It's not just Indiana, so I don't want to sit here and just call them out.
Their home schedule, though, is a joke.
There's a lot of teams that have a really, really bad home schedule, though. And just big picture in college basketball, like why would I want to spend all that money on those tickets to see you win a bunch of games by like 45 points?
Can I read these?
No, I don't want you. No, I don't want you. No, I don't
Please.
want you to rip up. Like we know they're bad.
SIU Edwardsville. I'm not listening.
There we go.
Eastern Illinois, UNC Greensboro, Sam Houston State, Miami.
This is
Ohio,
my job as a host to cut this off.
Chattanooga, Winthrop.
Okay.
I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah, we
It's
know
a
it's
joke.
horrible, but
It's a
they're not
joke.
the only one that's horrible. To
But
me,
they are a
that's
good
problem.
team. The difference is they're a top 20 preseason team doing
There's
this.
a lot of teams that are doing it. It's not just Indiana, which is
TJ
a
Otzelberger
problem.
does it every year.
Which is a problem in college basketball is we don't have enough of these home and home games, and at some point that's going to impact the money that these fans spend on tickets. Like, what is my incentive to go to a home game when you're going to win by 40? Who cares?
Well,
It's bad.
Well, does that change when the net and the selection process changes? I mean, is that a selection committee issue? Is that an NCAA
what they
tournament?
got to do, right? They got to divulge what the formula is for the
Because
net.
what's the incentive
Then
for
you
these
gotta cap
coaches
the
to do anything
efficiencies.
else? I mean, you understand both points
They're
because
running it up.
you know.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to try
But
to
it's
run it
not-
up.
It's not like even when we were doing RPI, the issue was still like home game. It was like
Some coaches, again,
some coaches don't have the balls to do. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
Some coaches don't have the balls to do what
Nate
Nate
Oates,
Oates did
Bruce
and
Pearl.
go on the road and
Yeah.
play
Yeah.
a road game against Purdue. They don't have the balls to do what Scott
And
Drew
Matt Painter did.
and go on the
But
road
Matt
to play.
Painter plays
Matt
people,
Hughes.
too.
Yeah, Matt Painter. They don't have the balls to do that. Like, and I'm not. Yes, there are a lot. There's some
Izzo
coaches that
does
are
it every
willing to
year.
do it. Right.
we should actually really go through it at some point and find out who are the coaches that
Call them out
especially-
on it. Call them
Yeah,
out on it. And
yeah,
now, look,
yeah. No, agreed.
I do have a level of sympathy in some circumstances
The
because
guys on the hot seat. I
and
get it.
or some of these ADs are like, listen, we need X amount of dollars coming in from season ticket sales and from revenue coming in. Like, you have to play some of these. Like, we have to have that money coming in the door. You got to play this many home games, and if you're not able to get those home and homes, sometimes you just got to buy the opponents. So that does happen to a point, but
Don't buy 300s.
I just wish we had more marquee non-conference home and home games.
Agreed. All right,
forever.
we're taking a break. This is the Field of 68 After Dark presented by BetMGM.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Now that college basketball season is back in full swing, I need to remind you guys about our partners over at Autograph, where the real college hoops fans reside. The Autograph app curates all of the best content for every sports fan and every sports fan's favorite team. Podcasts, blogs, analysis. It's all there without the nonsense from the talking heads that don't actually watch the games. And there's a bonus. Consuming content on the Autograph app earns you coins that can be redeemed for rewards for things like no-fee tickets or signed jerseys from your favorite players. There are a couple new features in the app that I need to let you guys know about as well. Autograph Replay gives you a quick-hitting summary of the previous day's news so you can keep track of all the important things going on with your favorite teams. And Autograph Rooms allows you to chat in real time with the true voices of fandom within your team's community. So go to the link in the description or scan that QR code on your screen and download the Autograph app.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. It is a Saturday night in Charleston, nice and cool here outside TD Arena. Paul Fritschner, Jeff Goodman, Rob Dauster. And for this next segment here, for these next few minutes, we're going to kind of play like a would you rather, I guess. And we're going to go through some teams. We're going to go through some conferences. And I'm going to give you guys the option to pick from for the teams, maybe who you would rather be in this situation, however you guys want to take that. And then for the conferences, we can get into it when we get there. So we just spent a little bit talking about Indiana's win today over South Carolina. The Hoosiers looking a lot better at this point now, getting a high major game under their belt at home. So I'll pin the Hoosiers against a Purdue team that just beat Alabama at Mackey Arena last night. Rob, we'll start with you.
I've flip-flopped on this. I've gone the opposite of what I said in the preseason. In the preseason, I thought I wanted to be Indiana, and I think at this point I've seen enough to say that I would be on the Purdue bandwagon here. I think that there is enough talent on that roster. To me, the win over Alabama really said a lot for a couple of reasons. One, you could run everything through Trey Kaufman-Renn and be able to get what you needed to get out of him to win one-on-one matchups. He did it a lot against a guy that we thought was going to be an elite defender in Cliff Amore. I think that Fletcher Lawyer has shown that he has the ability this year to be a little bit more of a go-to guy. I don't think he's going to be a breakdown off the dribble guy. I do think that you can run some stuff for him that will be a little bit more creative and he can be a little bit more impactful. And CJ Cox, man, like I think that dude is a rocket ship. I think that he is a guy that is going to, by the end of the year, be that secondary creator and playmaker that we needed. And you still got the opportunity for Miles Colvin and Cam Heide to take a step forward. And oh, by the way, you might have the best point guard in America. I'm not saying you do, but you might have the best point guard in America.
I have a feeling I know where you're going with this one, Goodman.
Culture. That's where I'm going. I'm going with culture and trust. And I trust Matt Painter, and I said this in the preseason. Just because of one win over South Carolina, I'm not going to change my mind. This Purdue team has guys that have won.
Yep.
They've done it before. They've got a culture. They're not just a team tossed together. And I think, part of Indiana is. I mean, that's what they did through the portal, right? I mean, they added key pieces. They addressed it. They went early in the portal, and it worked. But I'm not ready to say they're Purdue level. Hell no. Purdue's still up there. Indiana's trying to get there.
It's funny having this conversation too, especially when I'm saying like I'm flip-flopping. I feel better about Indiana now than I did in the preseason.
Too, of course.
Like, they've proven themselves to be better, but
100%. They're not at Purdue level. Trust-wise,
yes. I still would make the argument, and tell me if you think I'm wrong. I still think they're more talented.
Okay, that's fine.
And I'm buying into this.
I'm not going to argue that. I'm also going to say, like, okay, yeah, Braden Smith or Miles Rice. Who are you taking? Braden Smith.
I think
no question.
But I also think that is a closer discussion than anyone wants to admit.
I want to see it. Braden Smith's done it over and over again.
And he got them to a title game. Look, I get it. I really do think that
Trey Kaufman-Renn is pretty damn good.
He went right at
He's pretty
Cliff
good.
Amore last night. Right at him, got him in foul trouble. Like that was a really impressive.
Like, who would you rather
performance.
have right now? Trey Kaufman-Renn for the rest of the year or Umar Bala?
It depends on
I'll
what
give
I.
you one.
It depends
I'm
depends on
gonna
the
give you
role.
one
No.
guy.
Yeah, what's the role?
No, because the problem is both of those guys to me are a piece, right? And I don't think that Umar Ballo works as well for Purdue as he would in this Indiana system, right? And I don't think that you could play Trey Kaufman-Renn because I think that Malik Renew is the same player and probably a little bit more versatile, and he makes more sense next to Ballo than
But they're
Trey
close,
Kaufman.
right? You would say
Trey
they're
Kaufman.
close. Kaufman-Renn and Ballo, while they're different, they're close.
Yeah,
it's not that different.
Yeah, I don't think that there's no like
The most talented guy on the floor for either team is Mackenzie Mbaka.
Yes.
And he's the X factor for Indiana because he's a guy that potentially you can give the ball to, and he's a tough matchup. Because
I wouldn't say he's an X factor because I think we know I think he's proven what he is.
All right, but he was an X factor coming into the year. He's
Yes.
already proven.
I think for Indiana,
I agree. Like I think 1 to 7 they are more talented, but I don't think that means a shit for Matt Painter.
Here's what
Matt Painter doesn't need more talent to win.
Here's how I'll put a bow on it. I came into the year thinking that they were both probably top 25 teams, and I would lean a little bit towards Indiana. I am now sitting here saying I think Purdue's probably close to the top 10, right? It's maybe like, I don't know, 9, 10, 12. So if you got them somewhere in that range, you're probably right. Well, I think Indiana's probably around the top 20-ish range. And so I think Indiana's better than I thought they were. But Purdue looks –
He by the way, he had Indiana preseason like 15, just so we know.
All right, let's –
No, they were like 22.
No,
I can
you're
bring
on.
up my top 25 here
You're
at some
on.
point to show you.
All right.
next one up, Bama and Auburn. Would you rather? Bama, Auburn. Jeff, we'll start with you.
I'll take Bama in the long run.
Okay.
Like I think Auburn's proven they're better today.
Better win?
Yeah, I mean, you win at Houston.
That's-
There's nothing better than that so far. But I just think Alabama's ceiling is so high.
So Bama is shooting 30% from 3 on the season. We sat up here and talked last night about how concerned, or if we were concerned about Bama's offensive struggles that we didn't think we would have to be concerned about coming into the season, and whether that was a long-term thing or whether it's just a fixable issue right now. Sounds to me like
They'll
you're
be
saying it's a fixable
And they'll
thing.
get Chris Youngblood back in a month, and they'll be fine. They'll peak at the right time.
Yeah.
And I think Auburn will be a little bit their ceiling won't be quite as high. That's all. I'm taking Alabama 10 times out of 10 times right now over Auburn, if you're asking me who I'm picking for the long run.
10 times out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Yes, absolutely.
That's certain?
Absolutely. That's certain.
I mean, I think there's an argument, but I don't know if I'd go 10 out of 10. Rob.
I would probably lean Alabama, but I'm going to give you the argument for Auburn here. The length and athleticism that they have on their perimeter and on their wings matches up with anybody in college basketball. Anybody. And that is without 6'8" windmill in the first game, Ja'Kai Howard, the last 2 games. That is without Shaheem Hudson, a senior, because of the horseplay that happened on a flight that they had. I think that Janai Broome, there's an argument to be made that he is the best player in the SEC.
He's awesome.
There's an argument to be made that he is the best player in college basketball. You can say the same thing about Mark Sears. Yes, I know, Alabama fans, we don't have to – I get it. I think that you combine all of those things with the fact that if you can get Tahad Pettiford to be like – right now – and Bruce Pearl knows this. Right now, Tahad Pettiford has some nights where he's up here and some nights where he's down here, right? And if you can get him to the point where you mix in more nights that are here, instead of having it be down here, you bring that floor up and you still have that ceiling with what he can do, I would make the argument that there still is quite a bit of room for Auburn to improve because there is going to be nights. The biggest – like, if you could tell me that Tahad Pettiford will be 70% of what he was against Houston every single game for the rest of the season, then I think it's very, very clear that Auburn is a better team than Alabama. But I don't know that we're going to see that. And without Tahad Pettiford, I just don't think J.P. Pegues is the guy to be able to be the point guard that they need to be the Jared Harper level kind of league guard.
So do you think the SEC wears Auburn down? Is that kind of what you're inferring here?
No, I'm just saying, like, Tahad Pettiford is that is a hard name to say.
It is.
Tahad Pettiford.
Break it down.
He's just a freshman.
Yeah.
He's a freshman coming in. Like, freshmen are supposed to be up and down.
And by the way, like Aiden Holloway, his freshman year, the start of it, he was pretty good.
Yes.
And then he hit a wall.
Yes.
So we don't know what Pettiford's going to be. I just think here's my take on Alabama, and we can end it with this, is like I just think there's far more margin for error with the Crimson Tide. They have so much more higher-end talent. Mm-hmm. The biggest problem for Nate Oates is what? What's the biggest problem?
The biggest problem is that he's not healthy right now and that sometimes they miss threes.
And
they don't really guard.
And
that's my other –
And he's got to figure it out and make sure that these guys gel together because he's got so many dudes who want to play and think, they're going to get 28, 30 minutes and get all these shots. That's actually, I think, going to be his biggest challenge.
And, look, I think that I would have both of these teams among the 5 favorites to win a national championship
I'm
right
not
now.
yet ready to say that about Auburn.
I'm not
there yet.
I'm not.
They should be ranked in the top 5. I'm not saying yet that – you know how sometimes those teams get off to those great starts and then they kind of settle down to earth a little bit?
Yeah, but there's – all right, then let's call it top 8. Let's call it – I think both of these teams are a 1 seed or a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. And I think you're kind of like, what do you trust more? A team that's going to be defensively oriented that might have a guy that gets hot, or a team that's going to hit a whole bunch of threes that might have nights where they can't guard
I just
anybody,
want to see if their guards are going to be good enough.
I just want to go to both the games that they play.
Oh,
We're going
to go to one.
I just want to go to both the
one of
games.
them.
Like, that's all I want to do. I just want to go to both those
to.
games.
Yeah, Auburn, Alabama, they meet on February 15th, and then the last game of the regular season on March 8th. So we got a little bit of a wait.
February 15th might be the day.
February 15th, that is a Saturday. Both of them are Saturdays. They knew what they were doing. All right, next one. One game, we're going to go to Kentucky and Arkansas here. Kentucky or Arkansas at this point?
You can start with this one.
I mean, look, Big Blue, baby. Go Big Blue. Big Blue Nation. I might be a member of Big Blue Nation at this point.
I really wanted you to
I'm
do
in.
a little woo pig suey chant.
No, I can't even
Can
do
you
it.
do that?
I can. Pig suey! I can do the chant. I
you
just
do it
don't.
with the hands
I
and
just don't
everything?
think they're. I just don't think
come on.
I'm
You're not-
very much. If I had any Arkansas stock, it's been sold.
Wow, look at you.
It's been sold.
Wait, you're
Really?
completely out on Arkansas.
It's been sold. I am out on Arkansas being an SEC title contender and being a national title contender.
2 weeks ago, this is no lie, Rob Dauster was trying to convince himself.
I was.
Not
I was.
me. He was trying to convince himself that DJ Wagner could be DeJuan Harris. You
Yes.
remember that?
Yes.
Not quite.
I've
but
said I still firmly believe that because look, I think DJ Wagner has the ability to be a good on-ball defender, and I do think that there is a creative passer in there. I think he's a guy
I'll
that can
give
be
you
a
number
facilitator.
one, not number two out of that argument.
But the problem is, he is in a backcourt with a guy who might be a better scorer and a better passer and a better point guard in Boogie Fland in the same grade. And I would make the argument that Nelly Davis is probably the best college basketball player for this season out of anyone in that backcourt.
He's just going to get healthy.
And
I mean, that's the one thing I'll say is Nelly, okay, he missed a lot of time in the preseason, and it's going to take time. You know this. For Cal and Nelly to get on the same page. If they do,
the bigger issue than more than anything, like we can say whatever we want about DJ Wagner, we can say whatever we want about Boogie Fland, we can say whatever we want about Mark Pope, about Kentucky, about Otega Owe, about how good Andrew Carr was. Like, I don't care about any of that.
Yep.
The biggest problem is that Arkansas still has a dude coaching them that thinks that running out a bunch of freshmen and running the same sets that he ran for John Wall and Eric Bledsoe is going to work in the year of our Lord 2024. It's not going to work. Like, I don't know why I said this.
He's out. He's out.
I said this on Friday night, last Friday when Arkansas lost to Baylor. I said this. I am so mad at myself for talking myself into the idea that John Calipari was going to do something different. And he's not doing anything different. And like,
I don't understand why you thought that when he has the exact same staff.
Because he
brought
did
Kenny Payne back.
Because he did something completely different last year, and it worked.
He had John Welch on
It
his
worked
staff
as well as we have seen it work for a Kentucky team in years. So, like, why wouldn't you lean back into it? Why would you go back to do the stuff that got you upset by St. Peter's in the first round? And they understand that they lost to Oakland last year, right? And that's what happens when you have the guy
I forget
from
the
Tommy
original
Boy.
argument already. Kentucky or Arkansas?
Kentucky or
Kentucky or Arkansas.
Look, I'll say this about Kentucky. Like, I'm out of Arkansas will be fine. They have enough talent to beat the teams they're supposed to beat. They're probably going to make the tournament. They're probably going to win 25 games. They'll be fine-ish, right? But I thought Andrew Carr was so good against Duke. I thought the plays that Lamont Butler made defensively were so impressive. I think that Amari Williams is a guy that brings an entirely different dynamic in terms of the way that they play. Kobe Brea made some big shots for him. Like, it just –
Kobe Brea's got to defend, too, at some point.
But, like, I don't know if I'm ready to say that Kentucky is a top 15 team in college basketball yet, right? But I think that with the way that they play, the way that Big Blue Nation is rallying behind Mark Pope, the personality that he has, the way that he allows those players to take ownership of that program, Kentucky's going to be just fine. They're going to make the tournament. They're going to probably make the second weekend. I think that their arrow is pointing up. Like,
look at this. He's already got them in the second weekend.
How about this? I think they're going to be a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Calipari was the top 4 seed plenty and didn't get to the second weekend lately. So, listen, to me, I fight myself with this one because, again, Arkansas, you see what they could be. Now, again, they don't have a point guard. Boogie Fland's not really a point guard. He's a scorer.
Goodman, the Cal apologist, is showing.
No, I'm not. I'm talking my way through this right now. Okay, I'm talking my way through it. Boogie Fland can get better as a point guard. DJ Wagner is not a point guard. John L. Davis is not a point guard. They're ball-dominant guards. That's what they are. They're bigs. Yeah, he's got a bunch of them. You know, Big Z is certainly talented, and he's gotten better defensively, but, you know, he's still got a long way to go. I just, you know, to me, their upside is high, but I'm with you. I trust Mark Pope. He's the difference for me. And I think if you look at their offense, you saw it the other night, right? They move the ball. They have guys like Lamont Butler that make the right play, that make life easier for whether it is Andrew Carr or Amari Williams or somebody. You know, you look at Brandon Garrison making that three at the end of the game. He's wide open. They have enough weapons, and I just think here's what I think might be the difference. I think both new coaches, new teams, I think it's a chemistry might be the biggest difference, and I think Mark Pope is the guy who's going to provide. He's going to be around his team. He's going to make sure they have chemistry and culture quicker than John Calipari, who I think is motivated again, but not at the same level that Mark Pope is.
Right up the road, North Carolina and Duke. Would you rather, Rob Dauster?
Duke.
Yeah.
Duke.
Yeah, it's hard to fight in for North Carolina on this one. I mean, listen, unless Tyler Hansbrough walks back through that door, I just don't see a big man.
Why would you go with
What?
Psycho T right now has no needs.
Or John Henson. How's that?
How about you just go
John
with
Henson.
Armando Baycott, the guy that was there last year? If you're going to
Yeah, I miss Mondo.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Use
to
that.
me.
Use
No,
that.
don't do that to me. Then I feel
point.
bad. Like you make me. I miss Mondo.
You've said this probably.
I
38
know,
times.
and you did it to me again. You screwed
Here's
me up.
for
Duke,
those keeping score at home. Jeff Goodman lives in Charleston now. His daughter goes to Indiana. He loves Indiana football, and he misses Armando Baycott.
Thank you.
Is there anything else?
Yes, thank you.
Did I miss
Thank
anything
you.
else?
I did.
No,
There's a lot more.
With Duke, like Kentucky fans are gonna fucking kill me for saying this.
You got to drop an F-bomb?
I do, because I got to make the point here. They're going to kill me for saying this, but like
They're already going to kill you for what you've said.
If Kamen Malawach doesn't get cramps, Kentucky doesn't win that game, and Duke wins that game, right? If Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster make even one of the 7 wide open threes they had in the second half, Duke wins that game. Kentucky does. There's not one iota of my being that is worried about Duke at all right now in the long term. They have a 17-year-old that they're building stuff around that is kind of learning the college game, right?
They beat Wofford by like 120 points today.
Yeah, it was 51-14 at halftime. 51-14.
They assisted on almost every field goal they made.
No,
Crazy.
they're
Passing
scary.
was crazy.
They're scary, and to be honest, in a way, I'm not sure the loss to Duke wasn't
To Kentucky.
good for them.
To
I mean,
Kentucky.
to Kentucky, I'm sorry. Wasn't good for Duke, in a way. I'm not sure it wasn't. Like, it's not going to matter in the long run. Like, for their seeding or anything like that, they're still going to be probably a number 1, 2 seed, whatever it is.
Well,
but
I mean, if Kentucky's going to be as good as we thought they were, losing to them on a
Won't hurt 'em
neutral,
at all.
like, what is that
Won't
going
hurt
to
'em
be?
at all.
Like a top 15 loss?
Right.
The only thing that's going to hurt
you
them
saw
is
how pissed Cooper Flagg was in the post game. He walked in, and you could just see it on his face how pissed. I saw him walking down the hallway, and like, I mean that kid is just so hungry to win, and we saw him in AAU. Like, that kid is all about winning and the right things, and that is gonna. It's already rubbed off on a lot of those other guys.
All right, let's do this for 2 of these for conferences. The Big East against the ACC. We'll pit those 2 against each other. It's been a tough start to the season for the Big East. I don't think there's any way around that one.
Defend the Big East, Robert. Yeah, bring up those teams at the bottom of the Big East.
Their teams. Who?
I mean, UConn hasn't played anybody. They haven't played anybody yet.
UConn has.
Played nobody.
Yeah, they haven't looked. It's been like a slow start for them in all 3. It's like the same recipe in all 3 of those games. I'm not ready to say I'm worried about UConn, but like they have some things that they have to work on. They have places that they have to improve. I thought that Xavier's win today against Wake Forest was really, really big, because I do think that Wake Forest will find a way to get into the dance, and landing that win, even though it's at home, but landing that win is going to be something that's good for the league overall. I would still
Creighton's good.
Yeah, Creighton's good. Like, Marquette just got a win at Maryland. Like, the top 4.
The top 4.
DePaul.
Yeah.
DePaul, is that what he said?
DePaul.
DePaul.
Well, DePaul actually winning and being
Raising the floor of the conference.
They don't have DePaul doesn't have to be.
All right, let's not waste time in DePaul right now.
No, but it's actually worth making the point, because like we talked about it with the ACC. Once Louisville got better, and once Boston College got better, And once Florida State got better, like, you lose those absolute landmines where, like, you know what cost the ACC so much last season was that Notre Dame was a train wreck for like the first 2 months of the year, and then they get to league play.
So was Florida
And
State.
then Micah Shrewsbury figures it out, and then they start picking off some people, and all of a sudden you have a sub-200 loss on Ken Palm on your resume against a team that is probably, like, in that moment, a top 70 team in America, right?
Yep.
And then that's going to bring down your metrics. DePaul going 3-29, like, just playing that game is going to ruin your metrics. And every single time you have a team in the Big East play one of those games, it hurts your metrics. And when you're the Big East and you have 3 teams that are just on the wrong side of the bubble on Selection Sunday, like, that stuff adds up. That stuff matters. So DePaul not being a complete doormat is relevant. Now, the problem is, like, is Villanova going to be a complete doormat? Is Georgetown going to be a complete doormat? I actually thought that that Butler landed themselves a nice win over SMU on Friday night, which kind of went under the radar. So I would probably lean right now towards the Big East just slightly, but that in my mind has more to do with, like, okay, I probably was too high on Louisville at the start of the year, and Wake Forest has been fine, but they haven't been quite as good as I thought they were going to be. And, like,
And they were picked third to start the start the year.
Syracuse is struggling a little bit, so I think I would still lean towards the Big East. But, like, the fact that we're having this conversation says a lot more about both these leagues coming down a little bit in my mind, because we're not ranking them against the Big 12 or the SEC.
I think the gap has closed. That's what I'll say. I think the Big East has been really good the last couple of years. The ACC has been down. I think now it's a flip of the coin. Mm-hmm. You know, I think the bottom of the Big East stinks right now. The bottom half. Yeah, I mean, maybe Georgetown's gotten a little better, but Notre Dame just blasted them at Georgetown on the road. Yeah, I think Louisville's gotten better. Now, there's some teams at the bottom of the Big East that have to prove themselves. You know, Boston College, are they going to be good? Florida State. Some of these teams have to be a little bit better. But to me, the bottom half of the Big East right now is brutal. I mean, it really does. And Providence hasn't looked good at all. I mean, the Fighting Gottliebs took him to the
took him down to the wire today.
I mean, it was tough. I mean, Doug and his new deodorant, they were you know.
All right, the Big 12 SEC.
SEC. It just means more, Paul.
We're in SEC
It just
country
means
right
more.
now.
It just means more. Look, when you have a team that was picked like 5th or 6th, I think some people had them as low as 9th in the SEC, go into the building of the reigning Big 12 champions and beat them, I think you have to lean towards the SEC.
No, that's the wrong answer. That's absolutely the wrong answer. I mean, you're talking Kansas, Iowa State, Houston, Baylor,
All right,
Arizona.
You're going to sit up here and you're going to hype up an Arizona team
Cincinnati.
that just got beat by 387.
BYU.
BYU got – who has BYU beaten? Who has
Nobody.
Arizona
Who's
State
UConn
beaten?
Arizona State has fought. They've beaten Santa Clara, and they just beat Grand Canyon. They almost beat Gonzaga.
Okay.
Arizona State.
Lay
off the Sun Devils.
Bad example. I'm sorry, Bobby Hurley. Okay,
I
got both
can't
the Hurley
wait.
brothers.
I'm
mad at me.
honestly
Second time in 2 nights we've
this
apologized
is
to Bobby
incredible.
Hurley.
The Bobby Hurley slander is absolutely unbelievable coming out of your mouth right now.
He's the second best Hurley. He's probably the third best Hurley at this point.
You're putting Andrew ahead of him?
Andrea.
What about Andrew?
He's all right.
Wow.
he's all right. You know what? We can bump up Andrew ahead of him
The Big 12.
Andrew didn't get Joe feud at any point during his
He did not.
his walk.
He wasn't in there against anybody good enough to get Joe
Fair
Field.
enough.
I just think the Big 12, I understand, it hasn't started off as well as we thought it would, right? Arizona struggles against Wisconsin. Baylor gets smacked against Gonzaga. Houston loses at home to Auburn. I totally understand that. And today, you could absolutely make a case for the SEC, although Alabama just lost at Purdue. But I think the Big 12 will be the better overall conference when it's all said and done.
All right.
It's okay to be wrong every once in a while.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, talk about a couple of games and wrap up this show. It'll be Toast of the Night and everything else. This is the Field of 68 After Dark, presented by BetMGM. Stick with us.
Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMN, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description.
Back on the Field of 68 after dark, and Jeff Goodman has never heard of a mango cart. And you never even heard of it, much less tried of it?
Never heard of it. They're unbelievable.
It's my favorite.
It
is my
They're
favorite.
elite. I mean, you stole them downstairs.
Well, I borrowed. I graciously borrowed. You can have the can back.
Poor Lynn Walsh, the SID here at Charleston, is going to be getting these mango carts back, and she's going to say,
Matt Roberts, thank you. Mango cart. Appreciate it. The deal, Field of 68 tip-off plus mango carts.
That's right.
Unlimited mango carts.
Let's talk about a few games from today. We're going to start with Xavier and Wake Forest, a 15-point win for Xavier at the Cintas Center today. Ryan Conwell goes for 21 to lead Xavier. The biggest question mark for the Musketeers coming into the season was not the offense, it was the defense. They answered a lot of those questions today, created a lot of havoc, created a lot of turnovers. Wake Forest kind of looked just out of sorts, and they have all season. They only made 5 threes today. They've shot the ball poorly this season. Xavier has certainly not shot the ball poorly. It was a bit of a kind of funky game toward the second part of the first half into the start of the second half, but the difference was that Xavier got out to about a 10-point lead, and they kept it there the entire way. This is a very good win for a Xavier team that's playing their first high-major opponent. What were your guys' impressions of this win for Xavier?
That was the Xavier that we've kind of been expecting to see all season long. And you know, some of those bye games they didn't have the greatest starts. They struggled a little bit in some of those early games this season.
For people that don't know, Paul is on loan here from the Cintas Center.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess I should introduce myself a little bit for those of you that are watching that don't know me. I do host the Sean Miller podcast.
That is brutal.
I do. It's fantastic. Check it out, Sean Miller Podcast YouTube channel.
The podcast was brutal. I meant having to work with Sean Miller. We've done it before. It can be brutal.
Birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, Coach.
Wow.
Happy birthday
60th,
tomorrow. But yes, I do cover Xavier very closely.
Did you say happy 60th?
Yeah, I was going to
He's
let
not
that
60?
No.
Well, he's younger than you, so how old are you?
No, he's not younger than me.
Yeah, you're
Sean's
64.
younger than me.
Yeah, you're 64.
Yeah, I think he's turning 57.
Yeah, he's older
56.
than me. He's older than me.
Doesn't look it.
Whatever.
Doesn't look it.
We'll
That's
call
what
him
happens-
50.
Yeah, that's what happens when you actually get on the elliptical once in a while.
That's what happens
Good
when I have
job,
to
Sean.
work
You
with
look
you.
great, man. Way to get in shape.
But for a Xavier team, again, that's playing their first high major opponent, you're right, Rob. I mean, Sean came out after the second bye game, and he said, we're just right now not a good basketball team. Is that your sleep timer?
Yeah.
Jeff Goodman's phone just went off to remind him to go to sleep at 10:54 Eastern time.
No,
It says-
it says 11:10.
It says bedtime reminder, and it starts playing lullaby.
Hey, I got to go to bed now.
I can't
think
believe
I
that
gotta
just
leave.
happened. I can't believe that.
Did I just get played off stage by Jeff Goodman's sleep reminder?
It's over. The show is over.
It's
Paul.
over.
Ryan
where were we?
Conwell is a stud.
Ryan
dude.
Conwell. And
He
you know
is
what?
So good.
You know, the thing about Ryan
Who
Conwell.
said Ryan Conwell was going to be a stud and was going to be the Dalton Connect type transfer when we did our, what was that? ACC
hot
show.
take. The
Our
hot
hot
takes.
ta-
Hot
right,
takes
our
show.
hot take show.
That was
That's right.
Randolph
At
Childress.
the ACC.
RC, great
That's
job
right.
making accurate predictions, man.
That's
You
right.
really know ball.
What did RC do? What?
He picked Ryan Conwell.
No, he did not.
Yeah.
That was me.
RC and
That
RC.
was not
RC.
Ryan Conwell, RC. Randolph Childress, RC. You can't lie to us, Goodman.
But I think watching that game today, I made a comment with about 10 minutes to go in the game that it felt like Ryan wasn't having a great game, but he was 4 for 11 from 3. What are you laughing about?
It wasn't like you were making this comment. You were yelling.
Oh, well, I
You were
was.
yelling
Oh,
in-
yeah,
you were
I
yelling
was.
in
I was animated. I was animated. What can I say? I'm not going to sit here and deny it. I was animated.
Was he dressed in all X gear while he was watching this game?
He literally had a musketeer helmet on.
The D'Artagnan head. I travel with it. It's my carry-on. But yeah, I made the comment that like Ryan Conwell did not feel like the typical Ryan Conwell today. He was missing shots and he was missing them pretty poorly in the first half, but he still finishes with 21 points to lead Xavier in scoring, gets to the free throw line, makes winning plays, led the team in deflections, and even when he didn't shoot the ball as well as he's used to shooting, which you can't expect him to every night, goes 4 for 11 from 3, he still makes plays that impact winning. And that's what Sean talks about a lot, and that's why this team's ceiling is so high. And the other thing, too, is Zach Fremantle is playing like he was before he got hurt 2 years ago, because that is what really made the difference. Jerome Hunter's still kind of working his way back, but even Jerome Hunter 2 years ago was the sixth man on that team. I mean, you think about kind of the lore that Jerome Hunter built up, a lot of that was because of the lasting impression he made from the NCAA tournament when he saved Xavier against Chris Youngblood and that Kennesaw State team.
Yeah.
But
The huge thing with Xavier and what's going to determine whether or not they can actually make a run and whether they are, UConn, Creighton, Marquette level in the Big East or like make a tournament level in the Big East, it's all going to be stops, man. How much are you going to guard? How much are you going to play defense? And I feel bad because losing I'm blanking on his name. The
big kid, the backup
big kid.
pick.
What's his name?
Oh, Lucina Traore.
Yeah, losing Traore before the season even really started is because he was going to be the anchor. He was going to be the linchpin. He was going to be the guy that allowed you to play that two big lineup alongside Fremantle and have a defensive anchor in the middle. And Fremantle, for as good as he is, like he's not like a rim protecting.
Well, they don't have that.
Yeah, they don't have that
because you're
now.
waiting on John Hughley to get back to the form that he was 2 years ago, and he's already lost 50 pounds, but now he's trying to get back into game shape. Sean's talked about wanting him to be his best in January. But
then, like he is not the same kind of shot blocking. Like he's big, he'll help you rebound, but he's not what
Traore brought something to this Xavier team.
That's why they got him.
That nobody else had. He was a difference maker in a way that they didn't have on this team, but they're trying to figure out a way to go around in a different way. So a 75-60 win to wrap this up for Xavier. We're going to stick in the Big East here and go out to D.C., where our guy John Fanta was on the call today for Georgetown and Notre Dame. And boy, oh boy, a tough one for Georgetown. Good win on the road for Notre Dame. Micah Shrewsbury and the Irish. Great day for Notre Dame as an athletic group as a whole. But, tough one for Georgetown.
Yeah, I mean, we know how much you like using a towel, right? I think Ed Cooley might need to bring back the John Thompson towel to Georgetown because right now he needs something. You don't know what the John Thompson towel is?
I just don't know, like, what is a towel going to do to help him?
He needs some good luck. He needs something that's going to help him. Now, again, obviously he might need more talent.
Do you remember the time that Ed Cooley split his suit pants open and had
Oh,
to wear
yeah.
the towel?
I
Yeah,
remember
had to wear the towel around his
that.
waist.
That was classic.
Can we bring that back?
Listen, Georgetown, I thought they'd be much better in year two. Because when Ed Cooley took the job, and I said it and I'll say it again, it's a better job than Providence. Georgetown, in its core, is a better job than Providence. Now, Ed Cooley made Providence into a really, really good job, and JT3 and Patrick Ewing, JT3 at the end, and Patrick Ewing did not. So it fell for Georgetown. It rose when Cooley was there. I thought he had all the resources. You've got all these players in the area that maybe you can get to bounce back through the portal. But the problem has been getting high-level players has not been easy for Ed Cooley so far. Epps is good, not great.
Epps,
Mack is good, not great. Sorber's going to be terrific, but it's going to take some time for him. They don't have enough. They don't have enough depth. They don't have enough high-end talent.
Look, Epps and Mack,
they're good players.
They're good players, but they're not great players.
No.
They're not winning players at the Big East level, right? I think
They're good pieces.
I think Thomas Sorber is going to be a stud.
Yeah,
he's awesome. And what are you going to get him for? 1, maybe 2 years?
Yeah, you're
Like,
going to have to
if it
pay.
goes
You're
well,
going to have to overpay.
Micah Peavy's got a nice role with this group, and I do think that like Jordan Burks, if he was your eighth man, if he was playing 12
They're a
minutes
guy
a night,
away. They're a dude away
No, they're like 3 guys.
Well, they're a
away.
dude away.
And here's the thing that I don't understand, right?
from being a
And
French
I kind of
tournament team.
understand, like, I guess I know why it's happened, but I think what has really set them back is that last year they tried to build through the portal and it didn't work. They couldn't get the guys that they were. We all heard the rumors of who they were going to try to get and who they were going to get and how that all that ended up playing out. They didn't get the guys that they needed last year. So last year was kind of like it had no chance. And then year 2, you decide what we're going to do is we're going to try to build from within and get all these young guys on the roster and develop the roster that we have in-house.
Well, they
But,
missed. They missed on guys too. They missed on Cliff. They missed on Biggs.
Yeah, but then like now you're starting from scratch in year 2 when people are already starting to get a little restless because they were like, I thought this was going to be a quick fix. No, it's like now it's going to be a 3-year process. Like it just, and you combine that with the fact I've said this over and over again. I think the biggest hurdle that Ed Cooley's going to have to clear to get Georgetown going again is the fact that they play in an NBA arena that seats 20,000 people that is almost
empty right now.
and it's so hard to get to from the Georgetown campus, and there's no like even when Georgetown. I used to live in D.C. I went to a lot of Georgetown games.
How far a walk would it be from Georgetown?
It's not.
To,
It's
It's
not.
not a
It's not walkable.
It's not a walk.
Like, and it's not walkable. To take an Uber is a nightmare to get to like a 6:30 tip. There's no. The subway, the metro. There's no metro stop in Georgetown, right?
Yeah.
You're not taking the bus because the bus is going to be sitting there in traffic too, right? Like it's
if you
a
win, they'll
nightmare.
combo.
Yes,
I feel like if you win,
but here's the
they'll come.
problem. Even when JT3 had that thing rolling in like 2011, 2012, like when they were competing for Big East titles, right? You would put 13,000 people in there, and it would feel empty because the arena holds 20,000. Like the upper bowl would not have people in it. And if you don't have a building like that completely full, it doesn't get loud enough to give you that real home court advantage. And I don't know what the solution is there. I don't know if there is a fix to that, because if you don't have a killer home court advantage,
Playing McDonough Gym again.
but that holds like 1,500 people. Like that is literally a gym. That is like pull out. That is a gym.
Right now, today, it might be the best thing for them. Today.
I think what you have to do is you got to renovate the on-campus arena, make a facility that holds 7,000 people, that is easy for all the students to get to, put 4,000 students in it, make it loud, make it a nightmare for anybody to go in there and play, and hope that that's enough to get you to the tournament. And once you get back to the tournament, then all of a sudden you have the ability to grow from there.
You need momentum. You
But
need momentum.
even then, like, how long is it? It will take like 5 years to build that facility. Like, I think it's in a spot now where Ed has gone there and realize like this is going to be harder than I ever thought it would be to get this going again, because there is so much there beyond just the basketball that he's got to go try to fix. And you guys know I love Ed. I just don't know if this is fixable.
Toast to the night, fellas. Let's wrap up the show.
For me, I'm going to go Max Shulga. VCU, I think he had 20, 10 boards, 7 assists, 5 steals tonight in the win over Loyola Maryland. You know, to me, I love Shulga. I love his what he did to stick with Ryan Odom through all this. He could have been at Villanova, remember. Made the right decision, didn't he?
Yep.
And he had a great game, and he's just one of the more underrated players around the country.
Rob, you have one, or you want me to go?
You can go.
Marcus Johnson from Bowling Green. I don't know if you guys saw this today. Had a hell of a game for the Falcons. They didn't pull it off. Did not pull it off against Michigan State. They lost 86-72. But he took Twitter by storm. So Marcus Johnson, toast to you, my friend. 23, 5 boards, couple assists, bunch of highlights, put on a show. We didn't talk about him at all, but I'll talk about you now. Toast to you, my
Rob's
friend.
still trying to find
No,
one.
no, no. I was trying to get the box score for it. So my toast is going out to Missouri State, who played Tulsa.
A lot of points.
111 to 106 in a 3 overtime thriller. Des White had 20 to lead the way for the Missouri State Bears, and Conzo Martin getting the win over Tulsa there. And I don't know if you guys saw it. It wasn't Missouri State, but Tulsa hit a shot from beyond half court at the end of the first overtime to force the second overtime tied at 97. So my toast goes out to Conzo Martin and the Missouri State Bears.
Cheers, everybody. This has been another episode of the Field of 68 After Dark. We thank everybody for watching, listening, subscribing, rating, reviewing, all that good stuff on a Saturday night. For Rob Dauster, for Jeff Goodman.
It's my bedtime, evidently.
For Dick.
Gotta go to bed here.
An all-time moment in this show's history. For Dagan Hughes, over to my right. I'm Paul Fritschner signing off. We'll see you tomorrow. The game is at 4 o'clock here at TD Arena. It'll be on the Field of 68's YouTube channel. That is Charleston and Liberty. Again, tipping off on the Field of 68 at 4 o'clock. We will be live on After Dark after that game is over. We're going to do it a little earlier in the night tomorrow. 7:30, we're going to get started on After Dark to wrap up the weekend.
Where are we going now, Paul?
Well, you're the
Where we
local.
going?
Where are we going? Wherever
We're
a
gonna
mango
go back.
card is
We're gonna
available.
Get rid of our jackets and we're gonna
Wherever
hit
a
the
mango
town.
card is
We're gonna
available.
hit King Street.
That's
King
right.
Street, baby.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Paul Fritschner signing off. We'll see you tomorrow on the Field of 68, presented by BetMGM.